It might be thinking, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't have an internal voice. That would be your internal voice. You found it. So here's one of the challenges in a difficult conversation. In a difficult conversation, that's exactly the time when your internal voice is turned up to full volume. And you're trying to figure out how to cope with listening to both of these voices, the person who is talking, who is clearly wrong and misguided and incompetent, and your own reactions, rebuttals. And by the way, your internal voice, in terms of getting your attention, has the home court advantage. It always agrees with you. It always talks about things that are interesting to you, right? So it is going to attract your attention, just like Missy's voice attracted your attention, because it was easier to hear, easier to understand, louder, and it spoke like a mother. We can identify with that, some of us. So you're going to be attracted to your own internal voice, and guess what? The other person in the conversation is struggling with exactly the same phenomenon, which is why they are not listening to you. They are listening to their own reactions, and they're waiting for you to shut up so that they can talk and tell you what's true and why you're wrong. So in a difficult conversation, this is the struggle, and understanding the dynamics of the internal voice in a difficult conversation is one of the things that gives us a little bit of insight. And also, if we're going to actually make a difference, you've got to look beyond what people are saying to what they're really thinking and feeling. Now, we would say that this person's gap is pretty small, that they are relatively transparent or aligned between their internal voice and their external voice. They could be more specific, maybe, but not a big gap. Person on the right says, "Fine, thanks." But is thinking something a little different, right? So slightly bigger gap. Now, of these two people, who experiences this conversation as difficult?
Everything's fine.
Right. Now, Pam also gets someone standing behind her to say what she's really thinking and feeling, right? Like, what does he want now? He doesn't really know what's going on with me, or in the department, frankly, etc. So we can get a sense for where are the disconnects and how big are the gaps and how do they play out in the conversation itself. Some of the action science stuff is to go back and take a look at what do I need to do differently? Because what you do drives the results that you get, including doing nothing, right? Which drives the results that you get, which is that the problem festers, doesn't change, etc. The problem in difficult conversations is that this often doesn't help. And what you need to do is take another step backwards, and we're talking about taking a look at the thoughts, feelings, assumptions, implicit rules in your internal voice that then drive what you say and the choices you make and how you say it. Because your internal voice is going to be leaking out and is going to drive your actions, and your actions drive your results. And if you want to really make a difference in your difficult conversations, this is where the greatest degree of leverage is negotiating with your own internal voice to make a couple of key shifts. And if you can make those shifts and change your stance internally in the conversation, then you can authentically step into the conversation and conduct the conversation differently, more constructively. But so here's a tendency actually to be aware of. People often trend in one direction or another. Some people would say that they are blame absorbers. Something goes wrong, you instantly take responsibility for it, apologize, you're very hard on yourself. How many people are probably trend in this camp? Okay. How many people are probably blame shifters? Something goes wrong, you look to everybody else and what they screwed up. I, by the way, am in this camp. Shifters? If you did not raise your hand, you are a shifter. Okay? It was a stupid question, so I'm not answering it. Okay? That's you blaming me. So I think people do have tendencies. Contribution attempts to correct that tendency by reminding you there are other pieces of the puzzle.